This is BGN, Biased Gaming News, home of up-to-date, factual, and unbiased gaming news, where gaming news is taken seriously. Now with your hosts, Michael G. and Leonard G.
I know we don't have the money, but if we don't do anything about this now, they're going to shut our studio down. I can't go living under the freeway underpass again.
I understand that, Michael, but you can't keep spending the studio's money on hookers and bringing them to the studio. And that's how we're left high and dry.
That woman I brought into the studio the other day ago, that wasn't a hooker. Leonard, that was my wife. Jeez. Welcome to Biased Gaming News, the number one place for up-to-date, hard-hitting gaming news. I'm Michael G.
And I'm Leonard G. And it is our job and duty to provide to you the hard-hitting, up-to-date gaming news you know and love. The type of news that keeps you informed and in the know of what's going on in the gaming world. Crimson Desert, a good game or a good way to waste 70 hard-earned dollars. Gamers all across the sweaty gaming ecosystem can't decide if the hit Korean RPG is a release of the decade or needed another decade in the oven. Crimson Desert has become one of the most controversial releases in recent memory, mainly due to its reception from both critics and players alike. Upon the game's release, review scores ranged from 10s to as low as a 4 from one critic. As of today, the game sits at a middling 78 on Metacritic, causing the developer's stock price to drop an alarming 30%. But as time went on and people spent more time in the game, we're now seeing players rating the game very high user scores, many of them stating the game's critical reception was unwarranted. The game now sits at a very positive rating on Steam, a far cry from the negative rating it received on the week of release. This could of course be attributed to the developer's speedy and timely patches it has released to fix a few of the game's biggest problems, with more updates promised on the horizon. The best way to describe Crimson Desert's release up until now is to describe a man with high hopes for his upcoming promotion, only to find out that he did not in fact receive his promotion and instead gets verbally and physically abused by his peers, which leads him to go on a week-long bender filled with booze, drugs, and Taiwanese hookers. So the man reevaluates his life, fixes his problems, drops the Taiwanese hookers, and becomes the man more prepared for his promotion.
That's an interesting analogy, Leonard. Sort of reminds me of your current situation, especially the part about the Taiwanese hookers, except you never stopped. Biased Gaming News has been running as an independent news source for some time now. While that has its pros, it certainly has its cons.
The BGN studio has been losing copious amounts of money ever since we started. The debt collectors are constantly banging on our doors. We had to film one episode in the dark because we couldn't pay the power bill, and they even went so far as to foreclose on our desk.
But you can help keep BGN alive and continue pumping out the best hard-hitting, non-biased gaming news stories the world has to offer. By pressing the subscribe button for our channel, that's all the donations we need to not only be the best gaming news source, but also keep the lights on and keep our news director, Terry, off the streets and off the heroin.
We appreciate your support and those of you who have already subscribed and watch our news segments. And please be sure to share our channel so that those hard-hitting gaming stories can fly.
Oh, what is that? What did I say? Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
One of the most polarizing news stories occurred the other week ago at NVIDIA's GPU Technology Conference when NVIDIA announced the next step in its Dlss technology. Was it more upscaling features? A new form of ray tracing, or what child labor sweatshop Jensen Huang purchases his sick jackets from? No, but NVIDIA announced DLSS 5 will feature the ability for your games to be presented in AI Slop. Using NVIDIA's AI technology, several big-name games like Resident Evil Requiem, Starfield, and Hogwarts Legacy can have enhanced visuals that almost mimic photorealism, but at a cost. Your game looks like it has an AI-generated porn filter that makes your characters look a little too sexy. One example was Resident Evil Requiem's Grace, going from a distraught nerd girl about to visit the building where her mother was murdered to a Victoria's Secret model ready to murder the runway. While the technology is impressive, it seems NVIDIA announced it at a time where the consensus for AI is a bit on the negative side. Gamers point out that the artistic styles of games mentioned above are butchered in turn for styles that just mimic real life. In other words, boring. This tech also begs us to question what effort artists need to put into a game if it's just going to have an AI filter on top of it. Much criticism has been tidal waved in NVIDIA's direction, so now we have to wait and see how this technology changes before it releases later this year. NVIDIA claims developers will have much control over what gets DLSS'd and what does not.
Now, we have a great example here that we pulled from the internet of what DLSS 5 is capable to do to enhance your games.
Let's go ahead and take a closer look. Dan, could you please throw up the image, please? Oh,
wow. Look at that.
It's
so lifelike, so real.
Say what you will about the tech, but color me impressed.
Over the weekend, news has come out that a Kingdom Come 2 developer has been abruptly fired and supposedly replaced with AI. It seems our nightmares have come to fruition and the end is nigh for hardworking citizens such as himself. The developer worked as a translator for Warhorse Studios, but in this day and age, the same job can be done in a fraction of the time and at a fraction of the cost by just utilizing an AI. Is anyone's job really safe anymore? Soon, fast food restaurants will utilize AI to take orders. AI may even diagnose medical conditions, discarding the need for certain doctors. The scariest implication in this whole ordeal, though, and the biggest loss we may face in humanity, is that someday AI may be incorporated to present the news. Now, you don't have to be an Albert Einstein to see the repercussions this would have on today's society, and I sure as hell don't have any other qualifications to find another job. So please, just cancel our meeting next week. We'll settle for cut wages. Right, Mike?
Space. The final frontier. These are the voyages of the space game Starfield. Its 3-year mission? To explore half-baked, procedurally generated worlds, to seek out new life on the increasingly expensive PlayStation, and hastily update the game to make it actually playable. To boldly go where many games have gone before. The bargain bin. Bethesda Softworks presented a surprise deep dive into their new and improved Starfield. The game is slated to premiere on PlayStation consoles after orbiting the Xbox and PC since 2023. Bethesda finally realized that a game about using a spaceship to explore space probably requires the ability to fly your spaceship, so they finally added it into the game 2.5 years later, along with many other quality of life features and added tidbits, like G.I. Joes. The question now is, will these new features finally bring Starfield into gamers' good graces? Or will it continue to haunt Todd Howard in 16 times the detail?
That was a good one, Michael. Fortnite overlords Epic Games has laid off 1,000 employees after it stated that Fortnite engagement has dropped since 2025. That's it. That's the story.
They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. But what if the imitation is imitated and now the original copy that was originally imitated now has to compete with two imitations, one of an imitation of itself and the other an imitation of the imitation. Pokemon, the gaming behemoth and franchise that refuses to evolve, is very protective of its ball-chucking, monster-catching gameplay. But in 2024, developer Pocket Pair released a suspiciously similar game called Palworld into the gaming scene. Palworld also featured monster catching and battling mechanics that defined Pokemon, and even went as far as to make their digital monsters have striking resemblances to Pokemon's style. Well, wait just 1 minute, lawyers, because there's a new kid on the block, and it's taking the copycat formula to a whole new level. Pikmin is a newly announced game that doesn't just look like Pokemon, but a carbon copy of Palworld, featuring mechanics of survival crafting and capturing monsters to work at your base. And if you thought Palworld was copying Pokemon's monster designs, wait till you see what Pikmin is copying from Palworld. Now, it isn't anything new when a game copies from another successful game, but in this case, it looks like things are leading up to a climactic battle of copyrights when 3 lawyers from 3 different companies duke it out in a free-for-all 3 lawyers enter, 1 lawyer leaves cage match.
You know, I would pay a premium amount of money, a substantial amount of money to see that.
It sounds like a pay-per-view event. Well, folks, once again, thank you. That is it for all the hard-hitting, up-to-date gaming news. I'm Michael G.
And I'm Leonard G. And don't forget to keep wiggling those joysticks.
Don't stop being you, Leonard. Don't stop being you.
You need to tell me how you came up with that joke about the Pokemon, because I just about lost it.
Oh, well, the writers, they stay up all night.
Give it a hand for the writers.
The writers are, oh man, it's a shame that with the budget cuts we've been having,
Yes.
we're gonna have to let them go next week.
Yeah, the writing isn't. That's one thing the writing isn't gonna save.
But to replace them, I did speak to a homeless man behind a 7-Eleven. He told me that he was a writer for Seinfeld.
Oh,
So I don't think maybe we could, throw him on the team, see how things go.
yeah. Let's get him on board.
I mean, he's got a bit of a rough personality, but once you get past the fentanyl addiction and the violent tendencies, he's not too bad of a guy.
we can look past that.
Oh,
We're
most definitely.
very forgiving.
But in another case, have a good night, folks.
Have a good night, folks. Take care.
This is BGN Biased Gaming News, home of up-to-date, factual, and unbiased gaming news, where gaming news is taken seriously.